It's funny how sometimes the things we see every single day, the really simple stuff, well, they can hold the most amazing stories.
Totally.
And today, we're actually diving into one of those. The daisy. Seems simple, right?
Right. But one of you asked about the folklore behind it, and what we found is this whole collection of really unexpected, quite charming tales.
Yeah, it's not just one story. We've got bits from a few different fairy tales here.
Exactly. Things like how the daisy got its name, um, the tale of the eternal daisy, and even one about a king naming it after his daughter. Plus others mixed in kings, teachers, stable masters, even a dancing bear pops up later.
A dancing bear. Okay, intriguing.
It's quite a mix.
So our mission today really is to pull out the best bits, the most interesting details from all these interconnected stories, like a shortcut. So you get the cool insights without reading the whole collection.
Let's do it. A shortcut to the daisy secrets.
Okay, so first up, how did the daisy actually get its name? Where should we start with that?
Well, the first story we have tackles that directly. It's called How the Daisy Got Its Name. And well, it's pretty simple, actually. Almost sweet.
Simple how?
So you've got this king, King Ulrich. He's out for a walk in a meadow. Nice day, geese are around.
Picturesque.
Yeah, exactly. And he spots these little flowers,
Yeah.
golden heart, white petals, classic daisy look.
Right.
He turns to his daughter, Princess Laura, who's with him, and asks, basically, do you know what these are called?
And what does she say?
She just looks at them and says, with total confidence, daisies.
Just like that daisy.
Just like that. Kids, right.
Yeah.
And the king, he's just charmed by this.
No.
So charmed that he calls over his privy counselor and makes it official.
Makes what official?
The name. He decrees, write this down in the Royal Nature textbook.
Yeah.
The name is Daisy. And he even adds that the namesake is, and I quote, Her Royal Highness Princess Lara of the High King's Castle.
Huh. So it's official because the princess said so. I love that.
It's naming by royal whim, really, inspired by a kid. Simple.
It's very human, isn't it? Not some grand cosmic event, just a dad liking what his daughter said.
Exactly. But, folklore being folklore,
Mm-hmm.
there's usually another side to the coin.
Ah, so there's a more elaborate version.
You bet. That brings us to the tale of the eternal daisy. This one is much more fantastical, mythical, really.
Okay, hit me with the myth.
So, picture a magical garden, the kind where dreams took root and wishes bloomed, as the text says.
Nice.
And in this garden, there's this tiny daisy, petals shimmering like starlight, apparently. And this daisy knows the real origin story.
The secret history of daisies.
Pretty much. It tells how time itself,
Yeah.
capital T time, was
Yeah.
looking for something. It needed a keeper of memories to hold the past, right?
All right.
But it also needed someone to, dream the future.
Wow. Okay. That's a big job for a flower.
A very big job. So who steps in? A wise wizard, naturally.
Of course, standard fairy tale procedure.
Right. He gathers up some actual stardust and morning dew.
Mm.
Very pure magical ingredients.
Stardust and dew. Got it.
And from that, he creates the very first daisy.
The original daisy. And it's not just pretty, I take it.
Oh no, it has a purpose.
Ah.
The wizard gives it white petals specifically to capture memories, like a living photo album,
Okay.
and a golden heart to hold dreams, the potential, the future stuff.
Yeah.
The wizard declares it the link between what was and what will be. It's a time connector flower.
A time connector flower. I like that. Heavy responsibility.
And the daisy takes it seriously. During the day, it listens, gathers stories from butterflies, birds, all the garden gossip.
Mm-hmm.
Then at night, it shares all these stories with the moon and the stars. A little celestial storyteller.
It's like a communication hub for the garden and the cosmos.
Kinda, yeah. And as time goes on, its magic grows. It learns all the languages in the garden, trees, birds, everything.
Okay, this daisy's getting quite powerful.
It really is. The story even suggests that if you listen closely, you can still hear its stories on the wind. And the core message it carries, according to this tale, is if you open your heart to the journey, you'll find your place in the endless dance of time.
That's quite profound for a daisy story. It connects to that whole finding your place idea.
It does. It's much deeper than just naming it after a princess, isn't it?
Definitely a big contrast. One's a sweet royal anecdote. The other's this cosmic origin myth.
Exactly. It really shows how stories work, how we try to explain things in totally different ways.
And it sounds like this collection keeps doing that, mixing things up.
Oh, yeah. Let's jump into another one. This one's called A Fairy Tale of Beginning or End. Intriguing title.
Beginning or end? Okay, what's the setup here?
Well, it starts in this really weird country. Like, super strange.
How so?
Get this. It never rains.
Yeah.
Ever. There are no seasons, nobody works, and children die, but the old are born.
Wait, what? The older born? That's deeply unsettling.
Right. It's completely backwards. A world totally stuck, totally unnatural. Feels like it's desperate for a shakeup.
You can say that again. So who lives in this backwards land?
We meet a boy named End. Makes sense, given the vibe. He's described as handsome, but also having the rich experiences of a long life, even though he's a boy.
So End, what does he do?
He starts dancing, just jumping and skipping around. But his dancing starts to change things.
Ow.
It stirs up the wind, the earth. His body apparently gets hot and steams,
Okay.
and that steam forms the first clouds. His footsteps become thunder, the wind rushes, the sky brightens, and boom, the first rain starts to fall. Heavy rain.
Wow. So his dancing literally breaks the stagnation and brings rain.
Yeah, action brings change. But he's not alone.
Who else is there?
There's a little girl sitting nearby. Her name is Beginning.
End and beginning. Got it.
She's really moved watching End of the Rain. So she walks over to him, and she shakes her long, wet hair. Wherever the drops of water from her hair land, poof, flowers, bushes, trees, they all spring up instantly.
Whoa. So End brings rain, beginning brings the life, the green stuff.
Exactly. It's a really poetic image of renewal, isn't it? Disruption leading to growth.
It really is. So how does the daisy fit into this one, potentially?
Well, the story doesn't explicitly say, and then a daisy popped up. But you can easily see how the daisy, along with all the other flowers Beginning creates, would symbolize that fresh start,
Right.
that hope.
Right. Another layer to the daisy representing new beginnings in this context.
Precisely. It's all weaving together. Which brings us to another story, shifting gears a bit. This one involves royalty again, but also teaching. The young king and the female teacher.
Okay, female teacher. That sounds potentially noteworthy for the time these tales might come from.
It does stand out.
Yeah.
Suggests something a bit different, maybe challenging norms.
So what's the story?
We have a young king. He's just inherited the throne. His father passed away. He's got responsibilities, but he's still curious about his kingdom.
Okay, a young ruler.
One day, he's looking out from the castle, sees the spring landscape, and decides, kind of on a whim, he wants to visit the first and only teacher in his entire country. A woman teaching over 30 kids in a village school.
The only teacher. Wow. And he wants to see her. What incognito, though? He goes in disguise, right?
Yeah, dressed as a simple hunter with a friend. I think maybe he wants the real story, to see things without all the royal fuss. Get an honest look at this education initiative he apparently approved.
Makes sense. See it with his own eyes. So he rides out there.
Yep. Interrupts his hunt, rides to the village, finds the schoolhouse, hears kids singing inside.
It's peaceful.
He knocks when the singing stops, and the door's opened by a young, beautiful girl. The king is apparently quite struck by her.
Ah, a potential romantic twist to the inspection tour.
Seems like it. He asks politely if she's the teacher. What happens next is pretty funny.
Why? What does she do?
She basically doesn't believe him when he eventually claims to be the king. I mean, why would she? Some guy in hunter's clothes just shows up.
True. Probably not standard royal protocol.
She tells him unauthorized people aren't allowed in unless they're from the education authority. Very professional.
Good for her.
The king's amused and says, "Forgive me, I am the king of this land."
And her reaction, she buys it.
Not right away. The story says she felt deep fright, but then she just laughs, thinks he's joking.
Huh. I like her.
The king insists, but she's still skeptical. So she says, "Okay, prove it, I'll test you."
A test for the king. By the teacher. Brilliant. What does she ask?
This is the best part. She asks really specific stuff, like when was he born? What are his hobbies?
Hobbies? Like what?
His horse's name, Stormwind, and the fact that he plays the flute. Then she asks about his sisters.
His sisters.
Yeah, Waltrud and Notberga. She asks for their ages, what their hobbies are.
Whoa, that's detailed. Does he know?
He nails every single question, gets all the details right, and that finally convinces her.
Okay, so he's attentive, knows his family trivia. That humanizes him a bit.
It does. But there's one last thing she asks about. A secret golden cross he wears.
A secret cross. Intriguing. Do we find out why it's secret?
The excerpt cuts off there. We know he has it, she knows about it, but not the story behind it. Leaves you hanging.
Okay, but a great little encounter. Shows a clever teacher and a surprisingly down-to-earth king.
Definitely. Now let's switch gears again. Completely different vibe. The adventurous story of the royal stable master Florian, the chambermaid Agnes, and the little Prince Maximilian.
Okay, that sounds like classic adventure. Stable master, chambermaid, prince.
It does. The bit we're looking at finds Florian and Agnes in a dark forest.
Dark forest. Never good in fairy tales. Means
Yeah.
trouble, usually. Lost, scared.
Pretty much. Agnes is really upset, heartbroken. We don't know exactly why from this snippet. But Florian, the stable master, he's solid.
How so?
He sticks by her, promises to protect her. And he suggests they live like brother and sister just to survive out there together. Shows real decency.
That's quite noble of him, so they're roughing it in the woods.
Yeah, they build a shelter, find food, they're resourceful. But then something shifts.
What happened?
Florian finds an orphaned bear cub, brings it back to their camp.
A bear cub? Okay, why? What does that do?
Well, it seems to change Agnes. Caring for this little cub, they name it Triple. It seems to, bring her back to life a bit. Gives her something to focus on, maybe.
Animals can do that. A nurturing instinct kicks in.
Exactly. And then their journey takes another weird turn.
Go on.
They start traveling through villages as minstrels.
Minstrels, like performing.
Yes, with Triple the bear, who is now a dancing bear.
No way! A dancing bear, that's amazing.
Right, so this unlikely trio, Florian, Agnes, and Triple the dancing bear, they travel around, perform, earn money, find kindness from people.
That's incredible. From Lost in the Woods to a traveling show.
And eventually, their travels lead them to the royal castle. They end up performing there during a festival.
Full circle, almost. What a comeback story. Resilience, right.
Totally. Shows how people can adapt, find unexpected ways to survive, even thrive, and how connections even with a bear matter.
Amazing. Okay, where does this collection take us next?
Let's look at a story about conflict, but maybe not the kind you'd expect. The Fishermen's War.
Fishermen's War. Sounds like it could be serious. Fights over fishing rights.
That's the cause, yes.
Yes.
Between two lands, Ardonia and Dukeland. Dukeland fishermen start fishing in Ardonian waters.
Why?
They say their population is bigger, they need more food. King Ulrich of Ardonia says stick to the boundaries. King Conrad of Dukeland says needs must. Classic border dispute, basically.
So swords and shields time.
Well, war is declared. Both kings order their armies to march into the other's territory.
Okay, here we go.
But it's weird. The armies march in, and there's zero resistance. Nothing. They cross bridges, head towards the enemy capital, and nobody tries to stop them.
That is weird. A war with no fighting? What's going on?
Maybe the ordinary people aren't really invested in this fishing dispute. Or maybe it's more symbolic. The towns are silent, people stay hidden.
Strange. So what happens during this non-war?
Something quite small, but significant. About a week into Ardonia's invasion, one of their soldiers, a guy named Bastian, stops for lunch near a village.
Okay.
And this little girl, maybe 3 years old, named Claire, comes out from a house.
Yeah.
She walks up to Bastian, holds out a dandelion, and just says, "For you."
Ah, a dandelion in the middle of a war zone, kind of.
Exactly. Bastian is really touched by this simple, innocent kindness.
I bet. It cuts through the whole conflict thing.
Then Claire's older sister Maria comes out, worried about her. They exchange a few words, and that's it. But that little moment, that dandelion, it sticks with Bastian.
So the war ends eventually. How?
They reach some agreement. The details aren't here. But Bastian, he can't stop thinking about Claire and her sister.
He wants to find them.
Yes. About a month later, he finds out where Maria lives, travels there, and basically just asks her parents if he can marry her.
Whoa. That's overbold. He barely knows her.
Very bold. Maria's surprised, too. A soldier from the enemy kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And she's hesitant about leaving home.
Understandably. So what convinces him?
She tells him she actually liked him from that brief meeting. And she was especially moved by how kind he was to little Claire, accepting the flower so gently.
Ah, so his reaction to that small act of kindness was key.
It seems so. That sealed the deal. She agrees. His parents visit her parents. They get married, have 4 kids. Happy ending.
Wow. All from a dandelion offered during a non-war. Shows you the power of small gestures, doesn't it?
It really does. Kindness bridging divides, leading to a whole family. Okay, ready for a story about envy and jewels?
Ooh, sounds juicy. Let's hear it.
This one's called the Pearl Necklace.
Okay, pearls, wealth, beauty, trouble.
You're on the right track. It's about Anne, a maid in a castle. She's hardworking, but she gets really envious of this guest, some haughty woman with a stunning pearl necklace.
Ah, the green-eyed monster.
Yep. Anne doesn't even like the guest, feels it's unfair she has the necklace, so Anne starts wishing she had one too. Intensely wishing.
And this is a fairy tale collection, so does her wish come true?
In a way. She's crying about it one day, and her tears, they turn into pearls as they fall.
Whoa! Instant magic pearls. Okay, what'd she do? Start selling them?
No, she keeps it secret. She hatches a plan.
Which is?
She wants to wear her own pearl necklace, made from her tears, to a big banquet for the king's son, who she kind of fancies. She wants to impress everyone, show them she's got status now.
Ah, trying to use magic wealth to climb the social ladder. Risky.
Very, she becomes obsessed. Stops doing her job properly, gets proud, spends all her savings on a fancy dress for the big reveal.
This sounds like it's heading for a fall.
Pretty much. The night of the banquet arrives, she makes her grand entrance in her dress and her tear pearl necklace.
Yeah, all eyes on her.
Probably. But she suddenly gets overwhelmed, scared, maybe realizing how fake it all is, and she just bolts, runs out of the hall.
Oh dear. And the pearls.
She's crying again as she runs, but this time, just normal tears. No more pearls.
The magic's gone. Why?
The story implies it's because her heart wasn't pure anymore. Like, the initial wish was maybe innocent longing, but the pride and the plan to deceive, that broke the spell. You can't fake true worth.
So what happens to Anne?
She gets punished initially, but eventually she repents, changes her ways. Years later, she finds genuine happiness marrying a good man.
So the lesson is, don't chase glitter, focus on being good.
Seems to be, yeah. True value isn't in the pearls, it's in your character. Classic cautionary tale.
Got it. Okay, what's next? You mentioned one with a funny title.
Ah, yes. This one's great. Our Harold is burning like a torch.
Burning like a torch. Sounds dramatic. Or like he's really passionate about something.
Passionate is right. It's usually code for being madly in love, isn't it?
Usually, yeah. So, a young romance story.
Exactly. It starts at a family dinner. The teenage son, Harold, isn't there for the third night running.
Uh-oh. Where is Harold?
His dad jokes, oh, our Harold is on fire again, meaning, he's probably off with a girl.
Standard dad joke.
But Harold's little brother, who's 8 years old, named Bastian, he takes it completely literally.
Little Bastian, what does he think?
He hears on fire and thinks Harold is actually burning. He's described as wanting to know everything precisely, dreams of being a detective. So he decides he needs to investigate this case.
That's adorable. A literal-minded kid detective. So what does he do?
He puts the clues together. Harold's always missing on Wednesday nights. Harold have handball practice on Wednesday afternoons.
Following the trail.
He decides to do some surveillance, stakes out the school gym after practice, hides near the door.
Proper detective work.
Tells his mom he's meeting a friend so she won't suspect. And sure enough...
She sees something.
Yep. He sees Harold meet up with a tall blonde girl, sees them talking, even sees them kiss. Case closed.
Busted. So he runs back and tells his mom.
Excitedly tells her all about his investigation, how he cracked the case of the burning brother.
And what's her reaction? Proud of her little detective.
She is, but it's also bittersweet, She realizes her older son, Harold, is growing up, finding romance. She gives Bastian a hug and says something like, well, at least I still have you all to myself.
Ah, that's sweet. A really charming little story about family and growing up.
It really is. Okay, next one focuses more on community, maybe hardship. Camille Kobe brings the eggs.
Camille Kobe! Sounds like an older person, maybe. And bringing eggs. Sounds humble.
That's the feel. Kobe is 77, works hard, gathering solder for his animals. But he's got a problem.
What's that?
His roof leaks, and he can't afford to get it fixed by the roofer, a guy called Baker Paul. Kobe relies on the little money he gets from milk and eggs.
Tough situation for an old man, so what does he do?
He decides to try and barter. He goes to Baker Paul and offers what he has. Milk, his best rabbit, and maybe some eggs, in exchange for fixing the roof.
Resourceful, using what he's got. How does the roofer react?
Baker Paul is initially quite harsh, dismissive. Don't need your rabbit. But then the roofer's wife, Francisca, steps in. She overhears and sort of mediates.
Good for her. What does she suggest?
She works out a deal. Kobe gives an egg for every roof tile needed, and the rabbit pays for the labor.
Okay, a fair exchange. Kindness makes a difference.
It really does. And Francisca's kindness continues. We learn Kobe's nickname, Camille, is from his past. He used to be a respected herb collector. But since his wife died, he's become quite isolated.
Lonely.
So Francisca notices his suit is worn out, and she mends it for him. This small act encourages him to go back to church, which he hadn't done in ages. It helps him reconnect with the village.
Wow. Mending a suit brings him back into the community. Small things, big impact.
Exactly. But the story ends on a sad note.
Oh.
Kobe is found dead later on. But next to him is a note.
A note, what does it say?
It lists his obligations,
Mhm.
things he still needed to do, including the eggs for the tiles and the rabbit for the labor. He hadn't forgotten his promise. And the note ends simply with, Lord have mercy.
Oh, that's incredibly poignant. Shows his dignity, his sense of responsibility right to the end.
It really does. A very moving story about quiet hardship, community, and the impact of compassion.
Definitely. Okay, how about something a bit more hopeful now?
Let's try. Tomorrow, happiness will meet you. Sounds promising, right?
It does. A search for happiness.
Sort of. It's about a woman who hears a balladeer sing a cryptic song. The song gives clues about finding happiness. Something about a fish pond at noon, a stream at a certain time, her garden in the evening.
Okay, a treasure map for happiness. So she follows the clues.
She tries. Day one, she goes to the fish pond. But while she's there, she sees an old woman struggling, so she stops to help her. By the time she's done, noon has passed. She missed the supposed happiness window.
But she did a good beat instead.
Right. Day two, she goes to the stream with her kids. She gets caught up playing with them, having fun, laughing. By the time she looks up, the time mentioned in the song has passed again.
So she missed it again, but she was happy playing with her kids.
Exactly. She doesn't quite realize it yet, though. Day three, she's working in her garden, feeling content. Her husband comes home, sees her looking happy, and mentions the evening bell, the final clue's time, has already rung.
And that's when it clicks.
That's when it clicks. She realizes happiness wasn't hiding at the pond or the stream at specific times. It was with her when she was helping the old woman, when she was playing with her children, when she was content in her garden with her husband.
So happiness was in the journey, in the moments, not the destination.
Precisely. It wasn't something to be found tomorrow at a specific spot. It was there all along in her everyday life and connections. A lovely message, really.
Very nice. Appreciate the now. Okay, what else have we got? Something mysterious, maybe.
How about Sacrificial Walk? That sounds like it has a story behind it. Regina Steinhaus's story.
Sacrificial walk suggests hardship atonement, maybe.
That's the feeling. It opens at Regina's funeral. She lived in this village for 30 years, but people didn't know much about her past. She was single, quiet, but known for one thing, dedicating her life to caring for a child in a wheelchair.
So seen as selfless, devoted.
Very much so. But at the funeral, her old friend, Greet Faust, starts talking. She reveals Regina wasn't always like this. Back in Hamburg, years ago, Regina was cheerful, lively.
What changed her?
Greet said something happened. Regina gave some news, went on holiday, and came back consumed by guilt. Overwhelming guilt.
Guilt about what, does Greet say?
Regina eventually confessed something to Greet, called it great guilt, a monstrous truth. We never find out what it was.
Secret monstrosity, wow.
Regina felt she had to atone, that the only way was through a life of sacrifice. So she decided to move away near Lake Constance, find someone who needed constant care, and dedicate her life to them. That's how she ended up caring for the child.
So her whole life in that village was an act of penance for this secret guilt.
Seems so. And she made great promise never to reveal the monstrous truth, a lifelong pact of secrecy.
Heavy stuff. Did she find peace?
The story suggests she found some measure of it through her service. The local priest at the funeral believes her sacrifice was accepted, that she found redemption. But the original crime or guilt remains a mystery.
You're wondering, doesn't it? What could have been so bad? A powerful story about secrets and seeking redemption.
Definitely makes you think. Okay, let's lighten the mood slightly. Rich man seeks love.
Huh. Sounds like a Lonely Hearts ad. Can wealth buy love? Let's find out.
It starts with Pal Peterson. He's loaded, got everything material. But one day a butterfly lands on his desk, and he has this epiphany. He's incredibly lonely.
He lacks love.
The butterfly effect of loneliness. So what does he do? Put an ad in the paper?
Exactly. He puts ads in newspapers, seeking love, gets tons of replies, meets lots of women, but finds it all empty, unfulfilling.
So buying love isn't working out. Shocker, right? It's all superficial. But then, nearly a year later, something different happens. He's driving, sees a little girl who's fallen and hurt herself by the road.
Yeah. Does he help?
He does. Stops, bandages her knee, gives her a ride home. Simple kindness.
Okay.
And as he drops her off, the little girl just says, "Thank you, good man." Just simple, honest gratitude.
And that affects him.
Big time. It's like that genuine, uncalculated thanks hits him harder than any fancy response to his ads. He feels something real.
A real connection, maybe?
Perhaps. On the way home, feeling different, he spontaneously stops and picks a bunch of wildflowers.
For himself.
No. He gives them to his housekeeper, Julia, when he gets back. Yeah. Just gives her the flowers, a warm hug, a kiss on the forehead, an uncharacteristic kind gesture.
And how does Julia react?
She's overjoyed, touched. And that moment, that shared kindness, it changes everything for them.
They get together, the rich man and the housekeeper.
They do. They fall in love, get married, have a child. His whole life transforms, not because of the ads, but because of that random act of kindness to the girl, which led to a genuine gesture towards Julia.
So true happiness came from unexpected kindness, not from trying to buy affection.
Exactly. Vulnerability and sincerity won out over wealth. A nice turnaround.
It really is. Okay, we've covered a lot. Is there one more?
One last one, a bit more whimsical. The Great Journey of Flaky, the little snowflake.
Flaky the snowflake sounds like a children's story, maybe. A journey.
It has that feel. It follows this tiny snowflake, Flaky, as it falls from the sky with millions of others.
Okay, little Flaky's adventure.
But it's a journey of transformation. Flaky lands, melts, becomes little droplet.
Ah, the water cycle.
Pretty much. As droplet, it travels in streams, rivers, even experiences a flood, sees the world from water level.
Quite the ride for a droplet. Then what?
It reaches the ocean. And there, it changes again, evaporates, becomes an air bubble called breezy.
Flaky to droplet to breezy. Okay.
As breezy, it travels with the clouds, sees storms from above, ships, seabirds, a whole different perspective.
From water to air, seeing the world.
Breezy and its cloud companions get blown over land, and eventually, conditions change.
It becomes a snowflake again.
Exactly. Breezy transforms back into a snowflake, maybe flaky again, maybe a new flaky, and it lands somewhere totally different, on an oak tree branch. The journey starts anew.
Wow. A beautiful cycle. Transformation, journey, new beginnings, all in a snowflake's life.
It really captures that constant change and renewal in nature, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Even encourages you to imagine where Flaky might go next.
It does. What a lovely way to round things off.
So you see, we started with a simple daisy, and look where it led us.
Yeah, from royal naming decrees and cosmic myths.
To dancing bears, secret guilt, fishermen's non-wars, tear pearls, literal-minded kid detectives.
And the journey of a single snowflake. It's amazing how much can be packed around one simple flower.
It really shows that these seemingly ordinary things can be tied to such rich, surprising, and diverse stories. Themes of love, kindness, redemption, cycles. It's all in there.
Absolutely. So hopefully for everyone listening, this deep dive gave you some of those aha moments, those interesting details we talked about, without it feeling like, too much information overload.
Yeah, just a taste of the different ways these stories look at life and the world.
All sparked by curiosity about a daisy, which maybe leaves us with a final thought.
What's that?
Just, how often do the really fascinating stories, the deep insights, lie just under the surface of everyday things we barely notice? What else out there has hidden depths like this, just waiting for us to look a little closer?